Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Gabrielle Miller, or Wonderfully Art Wars, and now Wonderfully Edits on YouTube. And today we have to talk about Spider-Man. I just got back from the theaters not too long ago, so of course I have my thoughts and opinions. So this video is going to be more of a laid back, and I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts, opinions, spoiler-free starting off the video. And everything else, how I felt about Spider-Man. And forgive me, I am a little congested because I was crying, guys. I was crying on and off throughout different parts of that movie. It was just such a heartbreaking, emotional, crazy roller coaster. And of course, I'm all decked out with this bandana that my best friend made for me. So of course, needless to say, I was very, very excited to watch this Spider-Man movie.
Space girl, I saw a lunar eclipse.
So first off, just an overall arching spoiler-free review of this movie. It is so beautiful visually, like the cinematography, it feels like Andrew Garfield's movies. It feels much more lived in. It is the same beautiful resonance and tone of his movie. It feels more gritty, and the colors, I feel the color gradient is more vibrant than in the past Tom Holland's movies and in past movies I've seen before. I really liked the overall scale of the movie. I also liked that it did achieve the goal of being a more grounded Spider-Man, which I feel like we haven't seen in a very long time. It's been like sort of the epic stuff, which I still think they will always be my favorite. Especially I'm still in the No Way Home is my favorite boat, and this one would kind of fall second on the ranking of Tom Holland's movies. I think it was a very beautiful movie, and it shows this broken version of Peter struggling to find himself as he's living on his own. He's without his friends, and he's learning to take both Peter and Spider-Man and make himself whole. And I feel like the movie very beautifully depicted that. I feel like the action was also really incredible, but I do agree that I think the action doesn't really amp up till the end of the movie when we get into like the more epic fight scene, which with the hand ninjas, which I thought that was really cool. And we did find out who Sadie Sink was playing, and the reaction was great. There was so much tension between Peter and MJ the whole time, and I will talk more about that in a minute. Marvel, I love you, but why can't our heroes be happy? But, you know, will be for a later debate in a few minutes. Punisher and Frank Castle is always going to be my icon. He is witty as ever, with his crass humor and his witty banter with Peter is just great. I wish we got to see a little bit more of Bruce Banner in this movie. I feel like we do get a good bit of him, but not as much as it originally seemed that we would get a little bit. We got the one scene with him, and we see him fight Peter at the end. I feel like the pacing is a little disjointed, just a little bit. I feel like it flies through things. Like, we get a full 4 years recap in the span of like 10, maybe a few minutes more. It was a very faster paced Spider-Man movie, but it still has the witty banter and Tom Holland's Peter Parker wit to it. I also like the scenes that we got to see flashbacks, and the scenes we got with like Ned, and the flashback, well, kind of flashback-ish with Aunt May really had me choked up. I cried throughout. So let's talk about why I cried throughout and some of the ups and downs of this movie. So full spoilers ahead, so if you do not want spoilers, look away, turn your ears off, go somewhere else for a few minutes. If you haven't seen it, go watch it as soon as possible, and I will see you in another video. All right, so here is the spoiler full version of my review. I cried a lot, and there were a lot of points in this movie where it was just like, oh my gosh, so frustrating. We had an amazing crowd that was very engaged in everything, and so the scene that I am referring to is a scene So we find out that Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey, and the reaction was just absolutely incredible. Her being Jean Grey is just so cool. I feel like she was a more unhinged version than what we have seen before. And she doesn't even, like, she doesn't tap into the Phoenix Force, which I was hoping we would. We did get a little bit more of that towards the end, but I feel like her powers were contained to strictly being telepathic, not very much the, like, explosive energy that we see in the X-Men movies. And I think it's just because she's a younger version of Jean Grey. We also get introduced to her sister, which the comic book people can tell me if she had a sister in the comics. But in the X-Men movies, I don't think she does have a sister at all. Because her mentor in the comic book movies ends up being Xavier, and Professor X being that mentor for her to help her feel more grounded in her powers. And so this one, when she loses her sister, she's a little more villainous and wanting to get her back without all costs. But of course, we know going into it that the Department of Damage Control are never the good guys. Like, in every single thing of Marvel we've seen, they've been painted pretty badly. So to see them painted in a good light for the first half was just kind of, like, unnerving, because you're sitting there going, like, okay, but what's really up with what's going on? So now I'm going to get into the bigger debate of how I feel regarding some of the scenes. So, as we know, Peter had to erase everybody's memories, and honestly, the memory loss trope, in my humble opinion, and from a literary standpoint, as I'm more well-versed in literary as much as I am well-versed in movies, from a literary standpoint, I've always felt like it's just very much of a cop-out. It gives the excuse to propel a story forward. Like, it's almost like it fills in the gap. Like, there's just kind of a lazy way of doing things. It's like, oh, they don't remember this person. I guess we're gonna have to spend an entire movie making them remember. And so there were parts of this new film that did feel that way, but I feel like it was saved by all the action and all of the interweaving messiness of it. And the scene in particularly that really made me upset and made me just, like, ponder the huge question I've had since No Way Home, since the Guardians movie, and since now this movie coming out, is we get this heart-wrenching scene where Peter is swinging MJ to safety, and they have this moment where she lifts up his mask to kiss him, and it feels just like it does for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2. I believe that's when the scene happens, the kiss scene in the rain. It feels the same way. She pulls the mask off and she remembers it's Peter Parker, and my theater went so crazy during this scene. There was shouting, there was excitement, and then it's Jean Grey possessing her. Great. Thanks, Marvel. We'll come back to that scene, don't you worry. And then later she finds the letter, reads it, and gets angry, and this also had me in tears when she said, I'm not that girl, I'm not this girl in this letter, I don't know you, and I don't love you. And that's just, you see the pain and hurt in Peter's eyes. I feel like Tom Holland's acting in this movie was so incredible, and I was able to resonate with it so much, especially being in college myself and going through all those crazy transitions throughout the film. And so that just kind of upsets me. We were this close to getting them together, and I feel like this is just repetitive issues where our heroes can't be happy. And I feel like the whole end goal of a hero is, like, to focus on the needs of saving the people, but they always end up having a happy ending. And so we saw it in Guardians, where Gamora also couldn't remember Peter Quill, and that was also so angering to me, because it's like, oh, I guess he can't be happy. We see it again in Daredevil Born Again, where Karen Page gets taken from him because he gets arrested, and so Matt doesn't get to be happy. Peter makes the spell, and now she's just, like, claiming she doesn't love him because she doesn't know him, and so thus he's not having his happily ever after and his happy ending. And I feel like in order to sustain a hero having their friends, having that love interest is very important, and it propels them forward more or less and gives them a reason to keep fighting. And I feel like if they forget, like, it's just blow after blow. And so that's what it felt like during the movie when we were close to getting her to remember, and it just was never enough. Like, we even get this adorable scene where MJ brings him back, because I think at this point she does start to realize, okay, maybe I do remember things. Maybe the memory's starting to jog, because Peter decides to be Spider-Man and play Legos with Ned, and she's drawing them, and the way she depicts them, she's like, you do look like best friends. As if almost the hint behind those words are you are best friends or were best friends. So I feel like maybe she's on the path to remembering, and especially we have this end scene where she's on the roof of the school fidgeting with her Dahlia, and so I feel like that's a good indication that she might be remembering things. So I feel like maybe she will start to put two and two together and remember things. But I just feel like it's just such a disheartening thing when these heroes don't get their happily ever after, their happy ending. And I don't know if that stands for a like thing that's all ingrained in all of us wanting that happy ending and that belief that everything's going to work out. But I feel like it is so the case that it's just so tragic that it just happens again and again, is this forgetting and this not having this love. And I just feel like it's just an excuse to tell more stories, which maybe that's a good story tactic. But at the same point, it's just kind of, you're just holding out hope the entire movie. And I feel like if you don't give that satisfaction at the end, then the movie doesn't perform as well. And so that's kind of the boat that I am in, and why I loved it a lot, but I also have my oh, but they did the same thing they did time and time and again and just leave our heroes alone without their love interest. But they do redeem themselves, and at the very end of the movie we get this beautiful scene, and my theater went wild as they were all clapping and hooping and hollering for this scene. Peter's on his daily routine to get his flowers for Aunt May, which I just think is such a beautiful part of the film. He's on his way to get flowers for Aunt May, and so he sees Ned again in this local just drugstore almost, or just local gas station kind of. Goes up to Ned and says, "Hi, I'm Peter." And Ned looks at him weird. He's like, "Oh, the guy from the party." And then Peter goes in for a handshake and then does their signature shake. And Ned goes, "Peter," and does it, and the recognizing, and not just Peter. When he first does it, he does it as Peter, as in he remembers. And I just think that was really beautiful and stands the true power of friendship and compassion. I feel like that theme is further iterated when Peter goes to save Jean Grey, and this scene also had me cry too. It's just emotional roller coaster for me personally. Where Jean goes into Peter's head and sees this flashback of Aunt May talking to Peter about, you're changing, and it's okay that you're changing, it's normal. Because as we're seeing in this whole movie, that Peter is tapping into more of the spider-like senses with his heightened senses, his organic webbing, and as he said, which was one of my favorite quotes in this movie, he's like, "Peter, you had organic webbing. He was cool." And it just tends to the wit of Tom was still in the movie, yet it's darker tones. So when Jean enters into Peter's mind, she takes the place of him in this scene and gets to see for the first time in a very long time what it feels like to have that parent figure that she's been lacking. And then Peter takes the place of Aunt May and says, "We can't do this alone anymore, that we need to rely on each other." And so I think that's set up for the two of them partnering up in Secret Wars. And I just think it's just a beautiful scene. It's very heartfelt, and it feels very reminiscent that Marvel's trying to go the more heartfelt way with scenes, and we saw that especially in Thunderbolts, dealing with mental health and family issues, and I just think it beautifully executed in that movie. It did transfer over very beautifully into this new movie. it was really good. It was an emotional roller coaster, and we did get our end credit confirming that Peter will be in Secret Wars, because we see Ned's tracker go off, and then we see the location change to ... and then you see it on a completely different Earth, completely different world, maybe Battle World ringing a bell. So that was really cool end credit scene. I wish there was a rumor a while ago, this actually might be an end credit in Doomsday, of us seeing Jean Grey and Spider-Man off-world. But, so we just got a little end credit with Ned. Also, speaking of Thunderbolts, Yelena made her cameo in the movie. As predicted, the hot tub scene was in the film. And that was just a rumor, a leak that one of the YouTubers I watched talked about. Den of Nerds. Talked about, and when I remember reading this leak and going like, oh, please don't be in the movie. And it was when Peter goes to ask Yelena about damage control and all of that. She is literally in a sauna hot tub and asks Peter to take off his clothes, as the leak had, and go into the water with just his mask on. Hearing it is one thing, seeing it is different, and I don't think it should have been in the movie. I feel like it should have been a funny little mention, or like he's like video calling Yelena, and she's in the hot tub and he asks about the location, and I wish like we got just little sprinkles of it instead of Peter taking his clothes off and stepping into her office. That was a little over the top. That felt like, hear me say it, Disney took over just a little, just took a hands on the wheel just for 5 seconds. Maybe however long the scene was. But to end on a very good note, we also saw, and it was just for Jean Grey, exploded with her full-on powers, and then Punisher decides to like take her out, essentially. And so he shoots through the window, shoots through the force field, and Peter dodges it and takes the bullet for her, and that scene was just crazy. And so he gets shot, and I was just sitting there, denial. I was like, he's in Secret Wars. I swear he's in Secret Wars. And my brother turned to me, he's like, oh, he's dead, like, and I'm like, no, he's in Secret Wars. It's happening, it's okay. I feel like that scene was really good too. And you see the love the world has for Peter as Spider-Man. And you see Frank take on compassion and caring for another, like, kid figure. And I just feel like that's very in his character. And this has happened time and time again for Punisher's character. So for him to take on love of Peter was just also really, really great. And then, again, I was saying in my spoiler, three thoughts is the battles all lead up to one big battle with the hand ninjas. And honestly, I wasn't expecting that to be the huge big battle. Because the trailers basically show what's going to happen in that scene. So I just feel like it all leading up to that being the battle was kind of like, oh, okay. And I feel like that goes back to the movie wanting to be more grounded instead of more of the big, huge, high stakes, and where it's more focused on Peter as a character. And so that scene does a really good job because it has one of my favorite moments where Jean Grey says, who do you want to be? You can't be both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And Peter goes, I'm both. And so he finally takes control of the irregularities of his power, and he becomes like one with himself and beats the crap out of the hand ninjas finally. And so I feel like that was just so cool. And all the other fighting was really just what they showed in the trailers with recreating comic book covers, which was still cool to see in the theaters. Overall, it was a very beautifully filmed movie. I really hope there's more, because MJ not knowing who Spider-Man is still just a crushing blow to us viewers and to the character himself as Spider-Man. So I really hope eventually later down the line we do get another one. I know Tom Holland doesn't necessarily want to go in for a 5th movie, but Honestly, his Spider-Mans have been so amazing, and this one has just hit home very well. It has its ups and downs. It's been a very long time where I can say a project has been fully perfect and fully flawless. But I think that's the art of when we view a movie, all of us have our own different opinions. As long as we remember to be respectful of each other's opinions, then there's nothing to worry about. And I really liked this movie, and I think it's a really good grounded level of Spider-Man. And I just love Tom Holland in it. I love that we still get our cute, adorable moments between all of our three protagonists of the film. And that's all for me. I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you around.
but I'd still spend